Welcome everyone. Here we are on our Infrrd Assurity webinar. So excited to be with you all today. Hope everyone is having a lovely day. We are really all truly thrilled to be here. And I believe we are live. So I'm sure we have folks from all different kinds of respective places joining us here today. So wherever you are, hello, howdy, good day. Hope everybody's taking care. We'll take a few minutes here to get settled and allow for some folks to join us and set the agenda. This is a really thrilling, action-packed discussion that we're having today. We're really grateful for everyone for being here. This is Infrrd's first webinar for the mortgage industry. I really personally am so grateful to each of you for joining us. I hope everyone's taking care and ready for some action-packed discussion. As we wait for some folks to join us today, I would like to, in the meantime, take a moment to set that agenda. The mortgage industry is really at a critical juncture where innovation plays an essential piece of helping ensure mortgage quality integrity. Amongst a brilliant panel of experts today, we'll be exploring a truly transformative subject, or, drum roll please, how automation is poised to revolutionize and optimize mortgage quality control and review as we know it. So hope everyone has a cup of coffee, is buckled up and ready to get rock and roll in here. We're really excited for the discussion. Quick few things as we tap into the insights our speakers have to offer today. I'd like to go over a few quick points. First, please interact with us. We'll be running a few quick polls throughout the session to capture your thoughts, so please participate alongside us. Your input will shape today's discussion as well as future webinars, ensuring we cover what's most relevant to you. Secondly, please ask questions in the Zoom chat down below, actually not the chat, the Q&A section. You'll see a little icon for Q&A. That is where we are asking you to input questions for our panelists. We've reserved a time at the end of the Q&A session where our experts will address your queries. So please feel free to jot down any questions as we go along, or just enter them directly into the Q&A section of the Zoom panel. Awesome. Lastly, you will not want to miss out on a special offer that we'll be announcing today at the end of the session. So please stick around. It's going to be a great hour. Probably lunch hour for some of you. Maybe some of you are just having your coffee. In any case, whatever the case may be, thanks for being here and hope you're ready to get going. So let's rock and roll. All right. I'd like to go ahead and introduce our panelists today. We've got the Infrrd team and our esteemed group of industry experts and partners at Assurity here today. Thank you all for being here. So let's go around the table and introduce ourselves. I'll start. I'm your host, Teresa Trent, Senior Enterprise Account Executive at Infrrd, and I'll pass it to our Infrrd CEO and founder, Amit Jnagal now.
Thanks, Teresa. I'm Amit Jnagal. I am the founder and CEO of Infrrd. I've been an entrepreneur for about 15 years, and out of those 15 years, I've spent 14 years working on machine learning and AI-related technologies. I'm very excited to be here and share this time with you. Let me pass it on to Anoop.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anoop Halgeri. I've been working in the tech industry for close to 20 years now. I work with all of our customers to help really understand AI and how it can help transform their current business. I'll pass it over to Michael.
Thanks, Anoop. Much as I hate to admit it, I've actually been working in mortgage technology since the 90s. And have been, during that period, I've been CEO of several loan origination software companies, CEO of compliance automation companies. And today I'm here representing Assurity as a senior advisor to the executive team at Assurity. Luke?
Yeah. Thanks, Michael. I'm Luke Wimer. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Assurity Technologies. I have been in the financial services industry for 35 plus years and a range of technology and operational roles. And I'm passionate about process improvement and implementing new technology and just continuous improvement. So I'm looking forward to our chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Special shout out to our partners at Assurity for being here. We're very grateful for you. All right, let's get going, folks. Amit, if you're ready, I'd love for you to get us started. Could you share what's going on in the world of AI and why it's so crucial for mortgage companies to pay attention?
Sure, Teresa. And I think before you look forward, it's sometimes a good practice to look back. The disruption that we're going through today has happened before as well. And there's this one story that I want to start off with, right? This is like 18th century England, pre-industrial revolution. This is like the textile industry of that time. If you imagine, if you time travel into one of those industries, you'll see a lot of people working with their hand, spinning thread on a spool. And it was about 1774. I think James Hargreaves invented a machine called spinning jenny. And what it did was, instead of working on one spool at a time, it could work on 8 spools. So one person could operate it, and it would do the work of 8 people at a given time. And that dramatically cut down the cost of labor that was needed to start producing clothes. The prices of cotton finished product also fell when that happened. There were some people who got very mad about that invention, broke into his house and tried to take down the machine. And since then, it has happened a lot of times, right, in the life cycle of human history. If you look at the last few years, this disruption has happened twice recently, right? One was when internet came about. And then second was mobile. When that happened, it fundamentally changed how businesses were done. We're seeing something similar with AI at the moment. AI has reached a point where it can do basic cognitive work, right? Reading, listening, understanding content, seeing images, etc. Almost as good as people do. In some cases, better than people do. So we are at a place where the industry is going to be disrupted, not just mortgage. Any industry that relies on knowledge work has a good opportunity in front of them where AI can reshape how their businesses run today. So if you if I were to squint my eyes and try to look into the future, a few years from now, could be 3, could be 5, could be 7, 10. Right, but in the near future, most of the knowledge work that we do for mortgage, for any other industry as well, AI is going to become the primary worker, right? The main work for reading, understanding content, trying to make sense of data will be done by AI, and people will review the work of AI, right? So we'll become primarily reviewers with AI doing the basic grunt work for us, and we'll put more of our time on critical thinking, decisions, and stuff like that, and have a very powerful assistant help us through the rest of the stuff, which is what we are seeing with the mortgage industry and what we built for the mortgage platform. So that's where I think the stage is set, Teresa.
Thank you, Amit. Really appreciate your perspective. All right, folks, audience, we'd like to hear from you for our first poll. All right, we want to know, what do you see as your biggest challenge in the mortgage auditing world right now? Perhaps select one of these choices: keeping up with regulatory changes, ensuring audit accuracy and reducing errors, managing large volumes of data, reducing audit turnaround times, or integrating new technologies and tools. Whichever one best fits you, please select now. I'll give you a couple more seconds. Really appreciate your participation today. All right, let's have a look. Wow. Quite variety here. Thank you all so much. Looks like the majority got ensuring audit accuracy and reducing errors. All right, well, automation can definitely help you with that. Good stuff. Thank you all so much. Data accuracy is hugely important. We appreciate your various perspectives. All right, so really excited. Our next panelist has vast industry experience as the COO of Assurity. I'm so thrilled to reintroduce him to you all. Luke, please tell us about the Assurity business. We know that Assurity has several product lines and offerings. Can you speak about your service offerings around mortgage QC and due diligence, please?
Sure, Teresa. Thank you. So Assurity is a compliance software and services company. We have document software, we have compliance checks, and I think most relevant to today, the Assurity Services Division helps lenders to perform document review, document preparation, and fulfillment activities, specifically the close process. So our services team has spent years really trying to improve the flow of closing, improve the data quality, the degree of automation in the process. The complexity that we deal with, the verifying details, comparing paper and systems data, ensuring closing documents match the settlement details in a pre-close audit, if you will. This has been something we're focused on improving. We saw, just why we're excited to be here, we saw the AI trend starting. We knew from experience that being an early adopter can be expensive due to the learning curve, right? So Amit talked about a last century sort of innovation, and innovation follows an adoption curve. We didn't want to jump in too early, but we also didn't want to get left behind. So in early 2023, we decided to dive in with AI, with intelligent document processing, but more. We wanted a solution that would allow us to compare our compliance engines and our document review expertise with the goal of bringing down time and close process, or time and file, and leveraging the broader solution set to build something that helps us and helps us help our clients. And so, Teresa, if it's all right, I'd like to hand over to Michael for a little more detail, because he is leading our AI efforts, and he can certainly explain more specifically what we see as the opportunity with this kind of technology.
Thank you. Thank you, Luke. As he mentioned, our closing/audit services, like much of the industry, is still highly dependent on labor-intensive, what I like to call, and I'm sure a lot of the folks on this call are familiar with, the old friend of stare and compare processes. For those of you who are not familiar with it, you may be on the wrong call. But the reality is what we're talking about is users, we're still dependent on having humans in the loop to compare information that is in a mixture of both electronic form and document form. The effort that Assurity initiated with Infrrd had the primary goal of addressing this, and as a byproduct, realizing some meaningful ROI, consistency in service levels, improvements in accuracy, reduction of risk. So, I've been in the industry for 30 years, and I sometimes ask myself, after all this technology that's been developed, why are we still so dependent on the human? And why is document data so important? Well, let's start out with the basics. A mortgage is a legal document. And it's, as the laws in all of our states lay out, in order to effect a mortgage and have an enforceable lien, you need to have a document properly signed and notarized. So first of all, the data on that document is of utmost importance because it represents the asset itself. And secondly, a lot of the other data that is provided on a variety of documents is critical for proper underwriting and due diligence. So why does this data come in a variety of formats as it does today? Well, there is a mix of national, regional, and local service providers that support the origination process and also support the audit process. Some of the data that's sent is done electronically, and the industry has an effort also going probably since the mid-90s to create data standards to effectuate reduced dependence on documents. However, despite the fact that those standards exist for many of the transactions and much of the information that is used in today's world for originating and reviewing loans, there's still a very significant portion of that data that resides on documents and documents alone. And in some cases, those documents represent, they're in the form of a standard created by the industry. But I wouldn't confuse that standard with electronic data standards. It's a template standard. It's a format standard. And the other documents basically can be in a structured or non-structured, but they're certainly not standard. Now, origination processes, audits involve working with this mixture of very important data to make sure of a few things. One, we need consistency. You can't have a loan amount on a document be different than the loan amount that's in the loan origination system. I mean, that's just a very simplistic example, but I think you can tell that it's incumbent upon the audit process and the closing process to make sure that the documents and the data agree with each other. The documents and the electronic data agrees with each other. Secondly, we need completeness. There's data requirements. Data must be provided, and that data, if it's missing, needs to be identified, tracked, and cured. So the stare and compare process simply involves the user looking at the screen where the electronic data resides and looking at a PDF or an image of a document on their screen to see if they can match up the data on the document against the data on the screen. I'm not telling certainly not telling this audience anything they don't really know. The other thing that you might not think about, other than consistency, is since many documents and many of the documents that are created during the origination process use the data in the electronic form, and some of that data isn't available, isn't received electronically, it's important that any data that's on the documents that's not in the electronic platform gets updated. So why do we care? What's so damn important about all of this? Well, I'll tell you, it can have some serious consequences. In increasing order of severity, the simple case is when a lender needs to refund money to a borrower. Next step of seriousness is that an investor may refuse to purchase a loan or may require an originator to repurchase a loan from them. And the worst case is you have an unenforceable mortgage. So without a system to effectively address all of these challenges, we remain dependent on human comparisons. So Teresa, I hope that lays the foundation of understanding, or a good foundation of understanding, as why we are addressing this effort.
Absolutely, Michael. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your perspective. It's incredibly valuable. Michael, with your 30+ years of industry experience, I'm really keen on knowing more about your perspective. How do you think you should address the challenges you mentioned, and what kind of capabilities would the ideal automation platform include?
Well, I could get into a lot of detail here, as I did just before, but in the spirit of and recognizing the brevity of this meeting, I'm going to stick with the basics. The AI-based capabilities we need is an automated method for checking document package completeness. Do we have all the documents that are required, which varies by loan type and transaction type, and it's many other things, state variability, etc. We need to make sure that we're always dealing with the latest version of a document, since during the origination process, there will be new versions of documents created, and during the QA process, all of those documents, all those versions may be sitting in the package that was provided to the auditor. The auditor needs to make sure that they're dealing with the right version of the document as well. In order to work with these packages easily, given the fact that humans are still involved, the document packages need to be put in some sort of reasonable order, coherent order, so they can be accessed. They need to be bookmarked so the humans can get access to them without rumbling through a big series of PDFs. we need a product or a capability that reconciles data both between the documents themselves or across the documents themselves and against the electronic platform. And part of that is the title balancing process. This is obviously not something that occurs after the loan is closed, but pre-closing, title companies produce a closing disclosure, lenders produce a closing disclosure. It's important that those closing disclosures agree. Otherwise, you run the risk of running into some of the challenges and problems that I described before. And last but not least, the information that's on the documents should be automatically provided back into the electronic platform, so you're not dependent on the user entering that data. So I hope that gives you some sense, Teresa, of the type of the objectives of the platform that we're putting together with Infrrd, and what I think would be required in order to be successful in moving beyond stare and compare.
Thank you, Michael. I think our audience likely resonates with a lot of what you're sharing so far. I certainly hope that they do. I'm curious, what should our audience do to address these issues in their own operations?
Well, look, there's a number of technology vendors out there that have identified these issues. What we're saying here is not necessarily a secret. We believe that the effort that we're underway is a little bit unique, is that by working with Infrrd and a surety, you're dealing with a technology vendor that knows the latest in the technology basis, and you're dealing with a organization that does the kind of problems that deals with the kind of challenges that our audience deals with on a daily basis. So we're doing that together. But what we should do, how Luke described, assess your own situation, both technologically and operationally. Explore the vendors that are out there. Thoroughly vet those vendors. And what I mean by that is this technology, quote, ICR technology, has been around for a long time. And it has failed to achieve the promise for many, many years. And as I'll explain later, I believe that situation is now, technology has evolved to the point where that is no longer going to be the case. But I certainly advise people to vet the solutions, watch them in place, get case studies, and speak to the users themselves. And that's a starting point, Teresa.
Thank you. Good stuff, Michael. Really appreciate your perspective. And thank you, Luke, as well. Really interesting points. I want to toggle to one more poll for our audience now at this point. Let's take a few minutes to see how everyone is approaching the adoption of AI within their own businesses. So how ready is your organization to adopt AI in mortgage auditing? Perhaps are you already using AI and seeing results? Are you planning to adopt AI soon? Maybe exploring options, but not fully committed, hesitant, and perhaps need more information, or no plans at this time to adopt AI. Take a little bit more time for you all to toggle to that part of the Zoom feature and answer this quick poll. It's really informative for us and will help us steer our conversation today accordingly. Thank you all.
Teresa, while people are answering that, I just want to call out, there are a couple of questions that people have put in, and we can answer those now or at the end, but you know, I'm introducing it now to give people another minute to answer the poll.
Yeah, great point.
But we'll follow your lead on whether we should discuss now or later.
I think there might have been a question in the Q&A that perhaps was already answered by you, Luke. Would you like to address that one now?
Sure, I'll start with that, right? The question was, can your product be customized to meet the specific needs of different lenders or compliance teams? So partly as a follow-on to Michael's points, these AI tools in the market, and certainly including the one we're talking about today, are highly configurable, right? It's raw horsepower and capabilities that can be applied to problems and tailored to specific problems. And so that's part one of the answer. Part two is that Assurity is partnering with Infrrd to build some very specific capabilities for compliance and loan documents that, well, I say specific, but we believe, since we support a lot of lenders, that the capabilities, what we're helping to do is train the AI to work for specific purposes within mortgage, but that should be broadly applicable. But anyone who uses this technology can decide whether to use something that's already there out of the box or to further tailor it or configure it. Make sense?
I think so.
People will disagree with me if they feel differently.
I think that was well spoken, Luke. Thank you. Awesome. All right, folks, let's check out those answers to this poll and keep rocking and rolling here. All right, interesting. Looks like the majority selected exploring options but not committed. Great position. I hope you all are doing thorough diligence, and we would love to help you explore it even further. Really interesting perspectives. Thank you all so much for participating, and please continue to buckle up for this discussion. I'm really excited to reintroduce Anoop Halgeri to the discussion. Anoop, I'm putting you on the spot, as I enjoy doing. So welcome to the hot seat. You've helped several enterprises go through AI adoption. I want to know, how do you see this challenge? How do you see AI helping? And how do you see AI addressing the challenges in mortgage auditing?
Absolutely. Thanks, Teresa. So we've actually been doing a lot of work on this topic. When I look at an auditor's job, either be it on the pre-close QC side or due diligence, or even in fact, post-close auditing, it all comes down to two key things. The first is document completeness. The loan package that gets constructed, does the loan package have all the necessary document that is as mandated either by the regulatory reasons or based on the kind of QC you're doing? In layman terms, I can put that as, do I have everything? Second is data consistency. Does the information in the loan document and within the sub-documents, do they all match with each other? Does the loan final closing amount in the closing disclosure, does that match what's present in the LOS system, right? In layman terms, you can think about that as, does everything add up? As Michael mentioned, there are several reasons for these inconsistencies to exist in the first place. Traditionally speaking, auditors have adopted more a manual approach to perform these particular checks and balances. And honestly speaking, not because there is no technology awareness. The way I see it was a right solution did not exist, right? With AI and machine learning specifically making big strides in reading and understanding documents, auditors can really benefit from it. And the overall process of audit can get rid of the grunt work that we've all been talking about.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Anoop. I hope our audience found that useful. I want to hear you expand a bit more, but before we go down that route, another really quick poll for our audience. Let's see, how often do you all encounter data inconsistencies in your mortgage audits? Frequently, it's a significant issue. Occasionally, manageable. Rarely, our processes are most consistent. Almost never, we have strong consistency controls or not applicable to your role. This is a single choice option. Please select whatever is most applicable to you and maybe what you're most comfortable sharing. Of course, the polls are anonymous here as well today. Give you a few seconds. We do have some more questions in the Q&A. We will be addressing those shortly. Please continue to stay with us as we get going into the later stages of this webinar. Hope you all are enjoying the discussion so far. All right, let's see those results. a tie. Wow. Frequently, it's a significant issue, or occasionally, but manageable. Well, either scenario, definitely efficiency improvement areas. I would think we all agree on that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on this meeting. So great. Thank you.
Teresa, if I could just react a little bit to that one really quickly.
Yeah.
The people that answered occasionally but manageable. One thing we didn't ask, which maybe we'll do on a follow-up seminar, is the severity of these errors. You could have one error and it can cost several $1 million, especially with the average price of homes. So it's not necessarily just the quantity, but it's the severity of errors. And that's one of the areas where AI can really help mitigate risk.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Absolutely. I think it's really clear that data consistency remains a crucial area for improvement and top of mind for all of our mortgage processes. So thank you all so much for your perspectives. Anoop, I want to hear you speak a bit more about the process that a QC auditor follows and how AI can help. But also, I want to request that our attendees continue to include questions in the Q&A section on Zoom as Anoop is speaking. Please don't be shy. Let's challenge Anoop. Let's really hackle him a bit. He's a good sport. Really air out your thoughts. Please do so in the Q&A section. We'll address it later on in the call. All right, Anoop, please talk to me about how AI can help a QC auditor.
Sure. So AI has come a long way, along with other automation benefits that it can bring in, right? If you think about a loan package, it can range. These are large PDF documents, right? It can be, let's say, a 500-page document, 800-page document, and even in some cases, more than 1,000 pages. AI can break that large document down into individual chunks. It can distinguish a loan application form from a closing disclosure. Is there an appraisal document in the loan package? All of these are some things that AI can automatically do. It can go one step further. It can identify if there are multiple borrowers included in the loan package, have each one of the borrowers signed in the appropriate places in the loan package. All of these things can be automated. When we look back at what an auditor does, we talked about the first important step, which is document completeness. That's exactly the place where AI can help provide the automation, allow the auditors to review, figure out if there is a missing document, right? One of the things that does happen during the due diligence process or the pre-close QC process is see if there are any mandatory documents that are missing before it is sent out to borrowers for signature. That's the first place where AI can help. And there's more, right? It can also extract all the information from these loan documents. Once it is identified that there is a closing disclosure document, it can figure out what is the loan term that is mentioned, what is the rate of interest that's included in this particular document. Compare the borrower names across the different documents within the loan package. Is the name consistent? The loan application form has a particular name. Does my title commitment have the same name? Does my note document has the same name? All of these particular information and ensuring consistency of the information in the loan document is where AI can help in. Michael also touched upon a key point, which is CD balancing, right? That's a big thing as part of due diligence process. You need to ensure that the closing disclosure document that the lender has and the closing disclosure document that the title company has, does that information match, right? So these are advanced or otherwise manual things that an auditor does today. So overall, I strongly believe that AI can significantly help auditors shift from these time-consuming manual checks to more strategic oversight, ensuring greater efficiency in the overall audit process. Back to you, Teresa.
Thanks, Anoop. Good stuff. So while we're requesting our audience to share more questions with us in the Q&A section of Zoom, I've got one more topic I'd like for you to expand on, Anoop. So machine learning, it's a buzzword, a term that a lot of different technology companies leverage, and a lot of big claims around it. So how do you define true machine learning, and how do you trust what the machine has extracted? And last but not least, what if the data output is wrong?
That's a great question, Teresa. In fact, some of our early adopters of AI back in the days exactly had the same question, right? Let me actually speak from a customer's perspective, right? And what I have seen them do to address this specific challenge. So think of AI adoption in terms of phases. Treat phase one as a starting out phase, if you will. So AI at the end of the day is a tool which is available for you to automate some of the repetitive manual tasks that is being done today. Augment the process with human review. Let an auditor, to begin with, review what the system has done. AI is intelligent enough to point and acknowledge where it has done a mistake. With the right tool, you can reduce this overall time, which you're otherwise spending, completely manual, shift to a stage where technology does most of the work and you are reviewing. This helps in building trust. Then comes the phase of once you have gained this particular trust, now you can actually expand on top of it, right? You will observe where the AI is doing consistently right and where AI is probably making mistakes. You can adjust your process to distinguish between the two. At the end of the day, time saving, and reducing error is the primary objective. And that can truly be addressed by adopting these automation tools. Back to you, Teresa.
Awesome. Thanks, Anoop, for sharing this information. I know there's a lot of chatter about machine learning, but it's really refreshing to hear from experts who really harness the power of it. So folks, we will answer the questions our audience has kindly shared in the Q&A section in just a little bit. Before we get there, Luke, I want to hear from you again, please. It's your turn. Quick question for you. This can't be the first time that someone is trying to automate mortgage documents.
Right. Right. So, yeah, I think we saw in the poll earlier that a lot of people are watching but haven't yet sort of jumped into the AI tech. We've certainly been experimenting with process improvements, OCR and AI over the years. Well, less AI and more OCR and automation. I think the reason people are hesitant is a little bit what I described before. The learning curve is steep, but also they're waiting to make sure the tech works. Remember when e-closing was going to sort of sweep the industry overnight and dominate? And here we are years later, and the adoption rates are still slow. So, it does take time, and the technology doesn't always work as promised on day one or year one, but it does get there, right? So for us, just seeing the data ingest, the OCR capability wasn't enough. We needed something that could help us process the documents and add workflow and plug in our compliance checks. I'm a big believer in testing things out, sort of take small bites, but at some point you have to pick a solution to try. It was the combination of the intelligent document processing and the automation and the generative AI that led us to get off the fence and get into the game. So if you're sitting there thinking, when do I dive in? And how long does it take, which I see, and we can talk a little bit more about later. The important thing really is to pick a start point and get started. And we're more comfortable as a software business going with a minimum viable solution and then building from there. And that's what we've done with Infrrd. We've put several thousand loans in there, and we're using it. But it's a work in process. But you don't get started, you won't. You will end up behind, but I don't think you are yet. I think the good news is there's a lot of hype, but there's plenty of time to get going. Does that answer your question, Teresa?
I think that was great, Luke. Thank you so much. Really valuable insights into why automation has been a challenge in the past and what our audience can expect and how to get started. So thank you so much. Folks, another quick poll. Going to probably be a little bit faster on this one because we're trying to make up for time to make sure we get to your questions. So apologies if I don't take extra time here, but we're eager to hear from you. What has been your biggest obstacle in automating mortgage QC processes? Perhaps for those of you that have tried. Is it high costs, technology limitations, integration with existing systems, resistance from staff, or lack of vendor support? I'm going to take just a few more seconds here. Please answer fairly quickly. All right. Let's see those results. Integration with existing systems. Awesome. We'd love to speak further to that. That's great. Thank you for that perspective. I think, this just aligns more with how crucial it is to select the right partner for the enterprise automation journey. So let's dive back into this. Amit, let me ask you, with the new advancements in AI, what do you think is going to be different this time?
Yeah, I'll just take it from where Luke was pointing out a few minutes ago, right? I've been working with OCR software for a very long time, and before I started Infrrd, I'd met a lot of OCR customers. I had not met a single happy OCR customer, and that's why we started Infrrd, right? When we started reaching out to customers and said, "Hey, this is not OCR. This is IDP. It's built on AI, machine learning. It can do a lot of cool stuff." And there's a lot of resistance in the beginning, right? And customers, "I know we've seen this. This doesn't work. Go away." Right? But we've changed the minds of some of the largest companies on the planet over the years. So what we see in AI today, right? The important thing is it's not just happened overnight, though it may look like it has just suddenly come to fore. There's been years of work that has gone around getting the technology to this point. A lot of us may not realize, but AI is part of our life in a lot of different ways. If you have a smart doorbell and it tells you that a package was left off at your home when you're not at home, that there's AI at work. When Netflix tells you what is the next show that you should watch, that's AI at work. When you're in your social media platform scrolling through it and it shows you one content after another, it's AI at work. So it's not like we just invented this today and it's we don't know if it's going to work or not. We know it works. Right? It's come to a point where it can reliably be employed to solve business problems today. And that's where we are. And there are other technologies, right, which are not there today. So if you think about self-driving cars, for example, they are not where AI is today, right? Or space travel, right, is also not where it is today. It may happen hopefully in our lifetime. We'll get to see it. But AI has come to that point where it can do a lot of this work reliably. So that's the difference this time, Teresa.
Awesome. Thank you, Amit. Michael, I really want to toggle back to you and hear a bit more about how the heavy regulation of the mortgage industry impacts AI's use to improve mortgage document processes. And as few words as you're able to share, as we're
I was just going to say that, Teresa. I realize we're way under the gun, so I'm going to make it as brief and unaccustomed as I am to doing that.
I think this is a critical piece, though, so please.
Yeah, I see a lot of questions about compliance and regulation and what have you. And certainly you're in the right place talking to us, because certainly Assurity's ecosystem is heavily focused on compliance and regulation. And if you look into our website, you'll get a good understanding as to why I say that. But yes, the industry is heavily regulated. It's heavily regulated for good reason, because people are putting their life savings down. It's probably the largest financial commitment they're going to make when they buy a house or take a mortgage. So, and AI has actually been in use for quite some time. So this is not, in a sense, this is really not the first time that we're having to try to justify putting AI into the world. Automated underwriting, automated property valuation, those things have been in place for at least 10 or 15 years. And they're in widespread use today. And while there's been some pushback about the black box nature of some of the decisions coming out, bottom line is it's in use. But the other use case that hasn't been really effective is the processing automation. What I was just referring to as decision automation. Processing automation, where you take the human out of the loop, you reduce the dependence on stare and compare. That stuff is just starting to happen. Vendors are starting to produce platforms with robotic process automation. But guess what? Robotic process automation depends on having accurate data. And that brings us right back to the circle that we talked about, and that is, how do we get the data on the documents and the data in electronic format, synchronized, reconciled, and what have you. So we need to address those changes first, Teresa, in order to be able to achieve the benefits of RPA in process automation.
Exactly. I think that's where IDP also sort of helps, right? With the advancements in machine learning that we're talking about, AI has come a long way in just natural understanding of documents and contents. And this problem doesn't end with QC, right? Even if you look at the mortgage origination process, where you're calculating the net income and validating the employment aspects of the borrower, the document checking is throughout. In fact, that should be the topic for another webinar.
Awesome. Do you agree, Michael? Any closing thoughts you might have on this topic?
I think Anoop hit the nail on the head. I think there's data reconciliation is a starting point, whether you're an auditor or a QC review company or a loan originator. But it actually is the beginning of the opportunity to optimize your supply chain. Today, it's not readily apparent which are your vendors that provide you timely results. Maybe there's some visibility to timeliness of results, but how accurate are results? How often do you find errors? How often does it create extra work? And you really need to apply business intelligence to understand that. In order to do that, you have to capture the number of errors that you're receiving and where you're getting discrepancies in data that aren't real discrepancies, but they're false positives, if you will. So getting to this data that's on the document is like a way of enriching the quality, consistency, and purity of the data that you're working with, and you can take all kinds of offshoots from that in order to get value for your organization.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Really appreciate this perspective. Good stuff. Folks, we're really rapidly approaching the end of the discussion. Luke, I have one final question for you. Bear with me on this question, but if you were to have a crystal ball and you were to look into the future and you were to see Assurity's business perhaps in 2030, what do you see?
All right, thank you. And I'm going to try to tie my answer, Teresa, back a bit to some of the questions, right? We're all on a journey to improve processes, right? And we know that we've already sort of identified the fact that change happens slower than some of us might like. What I see 5 years from now, which isn't that far out, is that mortgage professionals, processes, closers, QA types are still needed, but they're doing higher order tasks, and the grunt work or the stare and compare stuff that Michael referred to has been largely eliminated. And so, other than wanting more home building and better interest rates, that's what I hope for is a faster time from when the home buyer decides they want to buy a house and when it's funded and closed, right? And that's what we're after. I can tell from the questions that people are after, yeah, but how does it integrate to my environment and how does it work, right? And so you've hit on a key thing here, which is mortgage lenders have dozens of applications, maybe more than dozens, right, to run their end-to-end process. AI tooling can be plugged in a lot of places. It has to plug in to get the data, and then ideally it plugs back into a production process. In the case of Mortgage Check, which is what we've worked with you to build, right, we maintain the regulations for all the state and federal and investor guidelines on closing packages, for instance, or compliance checks for GSE requirements. But there's other ways to do that, right? If they're not already built, they can be built. The technology these days, if you've got modern APIs, are faster to plug in. We keep up for our customers on all the regs, and that's an onerous process that's different from the task of identifying the thousands of document formats and comparing them, right? But we've helped work a process where you might bring in 3 or 4 different versions of the documents from different sources, and you can allow an expert to look at that on a screen and compare them and make a decision, right? Because the human element, and this goes back to what I see happening 5 years from now, the human element doesn't go away. You still need judgment, right? This kind of tooling just makes the judgment faster and better and more confident over time. So that was my attempt to answer a few questions as well as yours, Teresa.
Beautifully said, Luke. Really appreciate that. Music to my ears, especially the part about building more homes for Americans faster and more affordably. So critical moment in history for all of us. And we really, really look forward to the future alongside you, especially at Assurity. So excellent times. We have covered a lot on AI's potential, but I want to know one more thing from our audience with another quick poll. before we wrap up and get into our final questions, what part of your QC process would benefit the most from AI? Folks, let us know. This one, different from the previous polls, is a multiple choice question. So let us know what you think. Document verification, data consistency checks, compliance monitoring, error reduction, overall efficiency improvement. All right. Hope you're selecting those final options. I don't know. I think I'm going to see all of them selected simultaneously. That's my guess. Let's have a look now, please. Okay, great. Various different options. Appreciate your participation, folks. Thank you so much. Overall efficiency improvement. I think that's what we're all here for. So great stuff. It's clear that AI has a tremendous potential to enhance various aspects of the QC processes. Really excited to be here with you all today and hope you've enjoyed this discussion so far. Amit, I know the topics we've covered today are really near and dear to your heart. Do you have any closing remarks for our audience today?
Yeah, sure. I'll like to close with a personal story, right? So I'm a bookworm. I read a lot of books. I read like 60 to 80 books a year. Writing a book was one of my bucket list items, which I like ticked off a few years ago and wrote a book about AI actually. So there is this, recollection from my past time. There was my happiest place on earth used to be this bookstore called Borders. Some of you on the call may remember that. Late 90s, early 2000, there used to be this chain where there's a coffee shop in the bookshop. You can pick up a book and order some coffee, spend some time with the book and walk out with it. Right. And when the internet came, there was no reason for Borders not to be like a leading company in book selling, right? But Amazon came up with a totally new business model with that, and Borders, which is a publicly listed company, is no longer there. Right. We are going through a similar disruption. Anytime a new technology comes, which fundamentally changes how things are done, right? It both presents an opportunities and also reshuffles the table, right? A lot of companies who are number one in what they do today may not be number one in what they do in 5-10 years from now. And one of the critical differences is going to be who embraces AI, who makes friends with AI faster, and who avoids it like a kryptonite, right? There are three things that I want to leave you with, right? With what AI is capable of today and how we've built it into this product and what it is doing for mortgage. You'll certainly see that the things that you do today, most of the knowledge work, like Luke was saying, the grunt work will be done by AI. That's happening right now. But some of the projects that you had shelved, right, because it needed too much resources, too much time, was too costly, I think it may be time to bring them back, right, and see if there's a new way of doing things. And lastly, there's also opportunity to completely redefine how your customers experience your product or service, or how you answer the needs of the market. A lot of new exciting technologies available today, which can totally invert this experience. So it's exciting times, and it's going to need obviously some courage to get through this and get started. So Godspeed, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amit. Great insights. Folks, we've arrived at the final minutes of our webinar today. One final poll for all of you. Going to do this really quickly and then answer any questions that we can. And any questions that we can't answer, we will get back to you on and/or host a future webinar to cover these topics. So on the same line, what topic would you like us to explore in more detail in future webinars? Please quickly respond to this poll. Hidden costs of mortgage errors, forensic audits and compliance, mortgage QC audits and penalties, choosing an audit automation vendor, or transitioning to an AI-powered auditing platform. All right, let's see those results. And then we'll take the final 5 minutes for questions that are in the Q&A. Give you just a couple more seconds. Thank you, folks. Really appreciate it. Okay. Transitioning to AI-powered auditing. Great. We look forward to that. I think we were already on that thought process. So excited we're all on the same page with all of you. All right. To my panelists, thank you so much for the discussion. And thank you again to our audience. Let's address some of these questions in the Q&A. Perhaps I think a few of them we've done in the chat. but anything unanswered. Michael, perhaps would you like to take the first one?
Actually, I think that would be better for Anoop.
Okay, go for it.
The thorough and accurate mortgage quality control loan audit. That's the one you're referring to, right?
Yeah, I think there are three questions. I'll take one, which is you mentioned AI automatically determining multiple versions of a document. Can you expand that on a bit, right? So as we know, loan packages, depending on the life cycle stage, right? If I were to take an example of a post-close loan audit that one is performing, you will often see multiple versions of closing disclosure. That's one document where there is definitely a great possibility of having more than one versions. So if you look at how you do it today, do it manually, right? So you will look at the date issued in the closing disclosure document. The most recent one is probably the one which was issued most recently, right? So that's one way to check the most recent closing disclosure. Then there are other things. There could be multiple closing disclosures issued on the same date, right? Then you look at probably when was the document last signed? Was there a date listed by the borrower as part of signature that was actually used? If neither of these works automatically, then that's something that you'll present it back to the user, right? That's where the experience of the auditor comes into picture. And auditor takes a call, which one is the most recent version, and take the next step accordingly, right? I hope that answers the question. Michael, I think there is one for you if you want to take that. How can AI tools be integrated into existing workflows without causing significant disruptions?
Well, I can talk specifically about the solution that we are putting in place, but there's really falls into two basic categories. You can either use industry standard MISMO-based transaction types, which we are essentially building a gateway to mortgage check, so that you could use industry standard universal loan app, what have you, those formats. And then also Infrrd, and I don't want to put my words in Infrrd's mouth, but Infrrd will also step up for the right solution to build custom integration to the platforms that you have in place. Many clients are using industry standard platforms. They should be able to work with these MISMO standard transaction sets, and that will work. One other thing I'd like to touch on quickly is a lot of questions in there about compliance and regulatory changes and what have you. Luke touched on it briefly. The compliance related to regulatory assessments is in the products that Assurity is creating. And just the data compliance or the data thoroughness and accuracy and reconciliation is in Mortgage Check. And we're building a seamless integration between Mortgage Check and Assurity's Reg Check product, which is our mortgage compliance product, which is competitive with the products that you're probably familiar with, like ComplianceEase and ICE's Maven. So I think it's important that you understand that we can do this, and these are interactive platforms, so that anytime data changes, the regulatory rules are evaluated and assessed and notified right there in the Mortgage Check platform. Sorry, I ran so long.
That's okay, Michael. And can I segue from you to this one other open question, which is about steps to ensure quality control. So look, this is a broad topic, right? So just very briefly, step one is it's about data quality, right? It's about your individual lender loan program guidelines that you want for your teams, and it's about compliance. And so those are actually answered by a host of solutions. We've discussed compliance and some AI. It's broader than that, obviously, because there's a host of process and policy. But the number one recommendation I think any process improvement person would have is start with data quality at the source. So apply AI and data quality as early in the process as you can. You want your audit process at the tail end, particularly post-close, to be verification. You don't want to be finding problems that late in the process, right? So whether it's determining that your TRID notifications went out on time or have the proper change of circumstance documented, or you're within the range for it to not be a high cost loan. These are things you should be doing, early and often in the origination process, not after the fact. There you go. Teresa?
Just
Awesome.
to add to what Luke said, right, we also have put a small collateral around this, I think, in our website, or like a ebook on what are the critical steps to make sure you've got a good quality coming out. So please have a look at that as well.
Awesome. Everyone, we will be sending the recording of this call today to all of you. Also, we have a form that we're about to drop in the chat. As I promised at the beginning of this call, this is available to all of you. It's our token of appreciation for your participation today, offering you a free consultation session with our experts. No pressure associated with it. We want to help you explore what's possible for your business with automation. And this is an opportunity to dive deep into your specific challenges and get a personalized automation solution tailored to your needs. Please take advantage of this exclusive offer. We'll also email it to all of you as well. Please also follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and last but not least, I would love to chat with each of you. So I would, really love to help assist you with your automation journey in any way that I possibly can. Please feel free to reach out to me directly or check out our resources online. Thank you once again to our panelists and attendees for your participation and enthusiasm. We look forward to seeing you all at our next event. Until then, stay innovative and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Goodbye for now, everyone. Have a fantastic
Thank you.
So
Thank
much.